If you're thinking about doing anything to your house, be it a little project or a massive refurbishment, stay tuned. We've seen it all. Budget blowout, cowboy builders, ridiculous quotes from too low or to way too high. In this video, we're going to cover the 5 key things to avoid when you're doing a project on your house. My name's Matt, I'm from Fern. Here we go, let's go. Poor planning is the #1 problem we see. Now, it doesn't need to be flash planning, it doesn't need to be an architect involved, it doesn't need to be anything like expensive or time consuming. What it needs to be is detailed. Having a plan about what you want to achieve and being specific about what your outcomes are is the #1 thing we see people do wrong. A really good example of this is, let's say someone wants to do an extension on their house. They'll simply go, we want an extension. That's not going to be enough. You have to go into the specifics of it. Are we going to go for planning? Can we get it done under permitted development? We've got another video on that if you want to know what you can and can't do, right up here. Once you know your extension, your dimensions, what you want to put in the space, and more importantly, how you want to use it, then buy some grid paper, sketch it all out to scale. You can then put things like your dining room table, or if you've got a sofa, or if you've got an island in your kitchen, or maybe you want to replace your kitchen. All of these things need to go into a picture as to what it looks like at the end. Now that you've got a plan and it's drawn, and you've got the fundamentals of what you're going to use the space for sorted, now it's time to go into #2, which is the devil is in the detail. So things like radiators, things like lights, socket position, flooring, what color we want the walls to be. All of these things were really simple in this, but that's not the case in all projects. More commonly what we see is when we get to things like kitchens, where we've taken the side of a wall out and we're putting a new kitchen in, the thought hasn't gone into what the detail looks like. How many sockets do we need? Well, we've got a toaster and an air fryer and a coffee machine, and we want all of them to be there. Or we need a socket for this particular household item. All of these things are really important to get written down on a list, so that when we move on to the next phase, all of our list is written in 2 ways. We've got our need to have, which are in priority order, and we've got our nice to have, which is in priority order. Now's the time to move on to the next number, which is a little bit awkward. #3 is the most important, budget. The most common question we get from any of our customers right at the early stages is, how much is it going to cost? I always say to them, let's work backwards. How much are you prepared to spend is the better question. Most of the time people go, oh yeah, I want to do an extension and it's going to cost X thousand pounds. Well, I always say to them, well, how much do you want it to cost? And they're like, oh, well, we want it to cost nothing. Well, it's not going to cost nothing because you're doing work. Have a number that you guys are comfortable to spend on your house. How much are we comfortable putting on the mortgage? How much money have we got in the bank? All of those questions depend on someone's personal circumstances, but ask yourself, how much are we prepared to put into our home? Now that you've got how much money you guys are prepared to put into the house, now it's time to start going and talking with some builders. This is the fun bit. Next section, builders quotes. Unless you want your house to end up this big and completely not what you expected, this is the most important part, and this is where we see most people go wrong. Getting a quote off a builder is hard work. Builders are shocking, right? Answering their phones, replying to emails. Most companies are just like a man in his van, or like a really experienced tradesperson, and they're good with their hands, right? That's what they do. The paperwork side of things isn't their strong point. This really key point is they get a 1-pager off a builder which says, as per conversation, build extension, X amount of money. That's simply not good enough. There's not enough detail. There's no information about exactly what the builder's interpretation of the conversation was. This is where we go back to your needs and your nice. Your needs are prioritized for what you want out of your project, 1 through to 5. We've now got our nice. Our nice is things like maybe underfloor heating, or we want a hot tub, or we want a slide that comes down from the top of the floor and ends up in the kids' playroom. Look, it's all dependent on your particular scenario. What we do is we run down through the needs, we run down through the nice, and get your builder to price it in sections which match what you've asked for. So your needs might be, number one, X square meter rear extension in brick outside, timber inside, with this roof, with that lantern or roof light or whatever. That's your needs. Then the nice bit might need to be underfloor heating, and we want a whole tile floor, and we want this and we want that. They're your nice. Get them to price it in that particular order, because then what you can do is you can run down through it, and when you get to the point where your money runs out, you draw a line underneath it. That is what can be achieved. Now, if you ask all of the builders for exactly the same thing, you should be comparing a like-for-like comparison. If one builder, they might price for one pendant light in the middle of the room, and another builder might price for 12 spotlights, all around, beautifully laid around your new roof lantern. They're going to be really different numbers. This is where we see the biggest discretion in pricing, is where one person prices for the bare minimum and one person prices for a nice finish. In your details, you've already specified how many of X, how many of Y, how many sockets, how many radiators, how many X, Y, and Z. That's really important. There's no excuse then for the builder to get it wrong. And if someone comes in 40% cheaper than another company, it's probably because they haven't priced it right. So that's when you go back and say, hey, look, you've come in cheaper. Too cheap. Too cheap causes problems down the line and will save you a whole bunch of stress by not going for the cheapest quote. Devil's in the details. Get your builder's quote. This moves us on into the next step. We've got our plan. We've been through the detail. We've got our needs in our nice list, and we've gone out to the market. We've now got some quotes back in. They're over budget. It happens a lot. What we then see people do is go, I'm going to project manage this myself. This does not work. Here's an example. Plumber meant to come in, install some pipes in the walls. Nothing else can happen until those pipes are in the wall. Day turns up, plumber's meant to be there. 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, he's still not there. Now you're frantically calling the plumber. Plumber's crashed his van, or has childcare issues, or multiple excuses, doesn't answer the phone. Because the plumber didn't show up, now no one else can do their job. So we can't have the walls installed, we can't insulate, we can't put the kitchen in. And all it does is create a whole bunch of pressure and stress on the situation, all for saving those few £1,000s. Put some faith in the person who's running your project. Make sure you choose the right builder, and that might not necessarily be the cheapest one. Now I know what you're all thinking, easy for you to say, you've got a building company. Of course you're gonna say that. Ask around. All I'm saying is that's not the place. If you want to pull costs back out of your project, that's not the right place to do it. Because believe it or not, a good project manager will make the project cheaper in the long run, because you won't have all of these delays, not only in time, stress, but also in money. And that is the number 5 tip on how to prevent your project from turning to an actual disaster. They are the 5 things we would do to prevent your project from turning into a disaster. Now, they are just our opinions. Everyone's got their own ones. They're completely entitled to it. We're not saying absolutely do this. This is what we've learned from years of experience and watching people do it the hard way. If you've liked this or enjoyed it, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. Until then, we will see you on the next one. Catch ya.